everyone, welcome to another Music Talk Tuesday, and today, since I thought it would be appropriate, I thought it would be interesting to discuss Hanukkah songs, since today at sundown is when Hanukkah is supposed to start, and I believe it goes all the way up to Christmas Eve this year, which is interesting because I believe last year it was around Thanksgiving, so it's almost like it's trying to intermingle itself with holidays. But Hanukkah is a rather interesting holiday because it's probably the most second well-recognized holiday during this time of year. First one obviously being Christmas. I mean, Christmas takes up the majority of the holiday scene. But if you were to ask what is the most other popular holiday this time of year, usually Hanukkah would be the one that people would probably bring up. And I think there's sort of a good reason for that because there are a lot of people out there who celebrate Hanukkah, and heck, there's even people who celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah. So it's kind of like an interesting thing we have going with like the holidays, especially I think more within Western culture since we're so bombarded with all of these different ones that come up during this time of year, and Hanukkah is one of the ones that sort of sticks out, and I think there is still some representation of the holiday throughout retail stores, throughout various other locations that try to sort of showcase sort of the holiday spirit. Usually Hanukkah sort of stands alongside Christmas, I've noticed. It's definitely not at the forefront, but at the same time it still feels present. And I think it only makes sense to discuss some songs that are sort of related to the holiday and that reflect on what the holiday is about. So without further ado, let me discuss the ones that I found to be the most interesting and sort of fun. Now the first one is called I Have a Little Dreidel, or as it's more commonly called, the dreidel song, or dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. In case you don't know what a dreidel is, basically a dreidel is like a little spitting top that is used on Hanukkah as part of a game. And on this dreidel, there's these little different symbols on it, and depending on where your dreidel lands on, once the top stops spinning, depends sort of on the amount of sort of gelt I believe you end up receiving, because I think gelt is and in case you don't know, usually it's played with not actual gold or money, but with chocolates, so it's like chocolate gold pieces that they'll play dreidel with, and it's sort of intended to be like a game in that sense. Yeah, there's a song dedicated to the dreidel, and I think there's a huge emphasis on the dreidel within the holiday of Hanukkah because you usually see it marketed in various retail outlets. Usually it's something that sticks out in regards to the holiday. So I think it only makes sense that they would make a song based around it. Now, it is intended to be a children's song, kind of similar to some Christmas carols that appeal a little bit more to children. This one does, in the sense that it kind of sounds like it kind of sounds like those simple sort of nursery rhyme kind of songs that we sort of grew up with as a kid, because the song is fairly simple. It's just dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay. Oh, dreidel, and dreidel, 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 I shall play. Something to that effect. Apologize if I'm goofing up the lyrics here because it kind of goes fairly fast. But that's really the huge emphasis. It's supposed to sort of be a sort of celebratory kind of fun song. It's supposed to sort of get people, I think, engaged in the holiday and sort of participating within the holiday, and part of participating in the holiday is playing the game that involves dreidel, or the dreidel top, and gelt. which is the golden coins, which usually ends up being chocolate. So yeah, it's again sort of that fun, um, that funness that Hanukkah tries to sort of create and kind of establish some interaction. And I think it makes sense that only a song would be incorporated into that. Now, the next song that I wanted to briefly talk about is a fairly recent song, and it's by the Maccabeats, and it's called Candlelight. Yes, this one is actually a lot of fun in the sense that it takes the whole history and the whole tradition that surrounds Hanukkah, and it kind of tells it through a popular song because the group remade the song and created their own lyrics, and in doing so made up their own version, and they're basically going off of the song Ayo, I believe it's called. You know that song that goes Ayo, put your hands up, saying Ayo. You know that song. This song in particular, I believe, is the best version of the song. Mostly that has to do with the vocalists, because they do a really good job expressing the lyrics and sort of conveying the story with clever lyrics. And it again takes the certain things that are involved with Hanukkah and sort of inserts them into this song. And again, it goes over the history of Hanukkah a little bit, and it goes over the various traditions that they end up doing to celebrate. And that's kind of the song in a nutshell. And it's very upbeat. It's catchy. It's I think it appeals a little bit more to a wider audience, and in the sense that there's a little bit more complexity to, again, the lyrics. It's not as simple as dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. But at the same time, I think there is something in it for adults and children that I think they can sort of understand and comprehend and enjoy. Although I would say definitely the more teen demographic would, I think, find this to be the most appealing, because it is, again, trying to sort of copy from another song, but do it in a clever way. And I think that's why it's probably got over 9 million views on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure people watch it every year around when Hanukkah comes, and I think it sort of reminds people of Hanukkah and makes them realize, oh yes, that's another holiday that's going on this time of year. So it's, I think, definitely a song worth recommending, if you don't mind the silly and kind of goofy nature that surrounds it, because again, this is definitely not any traditional Hanukkah song by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely, I think, worth a listen to if you're open to that kind of interpretation. Now, the next one that I'm going to briefly discuss is actually one that's a little bit more traditional, while at the same time being a little bit more adult, and that is Hanukkah, O Hanukkah. And this one sounds a little bit more like Fiddler on the Roof. This is a song that you hear the instrumentals and you automatically think of those moments and those bits of music that are within Fiddler on the Roof. Now, it's not to say that the song or the Fiddler on the Roof literally directly copies anything that's within this song, or vice versa, but to say the least, they do sound fairly similar in the tone that they give off. And it does sort of reflect kind of the sort of tradition surrounding Hanukkah. And it's interesting, too, because it tries to, some versions incorporate different languages. Again, Hebrew, I think one of the versions I looked up actually had a German verse, and then they have English too. So um, it's very interesting to see the different ways into which people sort of demonstrate the song lyrically, and I think it really works for what it's trying to represent, which is basically um, bringing back those um, kinds of understandings to the people who celebrate Hanukkah. And it's definitely, I think, worth listening to if you enjoy that sort of uh, more traditional, I guess, interpretation. Now, the second to last one I wanted to mention is Hanukkah candle blessings. And I think the majority of the time they're usually sung within Hebrew. Um, but it has that kind of cheery sound to it, as opposed to the previous song that I mentioned that's a little bit more serious. Um, it kind of presents itself like a Christmas carol and how um, joyous and celebratory and happy it sounds. So it's interesting in that sense because it um, takes all of the sort of joy and whimsy and pro provides sort of the traditional sound and lyrics to go along with it. So I think it definitely works to the song's advantage and is one that's, I think, one of the ones that I would recognize as being a Hanukkah song. Now, the last one that I wanted to briefly mention is called Sevion Sov Sov Sov. um, and that's basically in Hebrew. I think it's one portion of the title is translated into dreidel, so again it references the dreidel. But it has, instead of it being either very joyous or a little bit more mellow, it has a jazzy rhythm to it, and it makes it sound kind of like a party. And it sort of inserts again that kind of traditional instrumental mixed with lyrics, because again, half of the lyrics are in Hebrew. Or actually, I think the majority of the lyrics are, actually, I think all the lyrics are in Hebrew. It's just that there was some versions that, or some lyrics that I noticed that ended up getting translated into English so people could understand what was being sung. But largely, it's again incorporating the dreidel as part of the holiday, and at the same time, kind of generally sort of saying, "Yay, we're celebrating! It's a fun time, it's a good time, and we're just being happy to be alive and celebrating Hanukkah." So I guess you could say that although these songs sort of, I think, have sort of a pattern into their approach, um, as opposed to Christmas songs that I think are largely more widespread and have a lot more of a variety, I still feel that these ones for Hanukkah do showcase to you um, the sort of joy and um, the the holiday spirit in general. So they're, I think, all definitely worth a recommendation to listen to during this holiday season. But I think that's ultimately all I can say about it. There's tons of different versions of the majority of these songs on the interwebs. So it's hard for me to really put in a description for you. But if you look them up online, you will be aware of the ones that I'm addressing. So again, I'm sure there's some interpretations that are probably a little bit more enjoyable than others. But I think they're definitely songs that are worth looking into. But I think that's really all I can say. However, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Goodbye and shalom, which equals, I believe, peace in Hebrew, if I'm not mistaken. However, correct me if I'm wrong. But thank you and bye-bye.